All right. We're here. We're back in the CrashLabs studio. Talking mining, talking all things, exploration, gold, base metals, precious metals. It's been a pretty crazy and active M&A. A lot of big company drama going on in the space. So I think today what we can do is have some fun. Let's talk about what's going on there, and then maybe after that, let's actually talk about some investments, because I know as a precursor, a lot of shareholders, a lot of followers of this and investors and comments that we've had is that people want to see us evaluate more deals, which is something we wanted to do, and so we're going to do a little bit of that in just a second. But first, let's just kick it off with what's going on in the whole Teck Glencore. What's happening?
Yeah, I think big day, vote tomorrow. So I thought we would cover it a bit. I mean, for everyone's benefit, as I'm sure they know, Glencore, one of the biggest mining and commodity marketers in the world, had put forward a $23 billion offer to Teck, Canada's largest diversified mining company. Teck has a fantastic storied history within Canada, being around since 1913. When you go back as far as the Hughes gold mine in the Teck County of Kirkland Lake. And the Keevil family's been around in Teck since 1950. Teck being a $25 million company at the time, and now it's $33 billion. But they've been facing a hostile offer from Glencore for a while now. Teck's been in I think the late stages of bifurcating their company, splitting their zinc and copper assets into Teck Metals, and then splitting their steel-making coal assets into Elk Valley Resources. And so there's a big meeting tomorrow from shareholders to approve that. But there's been a lot of drama because Glencore, late to the game, put forward a hostile offer to the board, was rejected. So now that's being put forward to shareholders in the market. And if they've raised it multiple times, and even as late as yesterday have hinted that they're willing to continue to raise it. And so Glencore wants, obviously, all the assets of Teck. They have very complementary assets. Their copper, Teck's copper stuff goes well with theirs. They have, their thermal coal that they would take to Teck stuff as well. I think there's a lot of synergies that go well with that deal, but there's a lot of optionality that it doesn't take into account. So what Teck's likely doing is, they're looking at splitting off, obviously, the mining assets into Teck Metals. There's a lot of companies sniffing around on the Teck Metals assets right now. You have Anglo American. You have even Rob Freeland, who said that he would potentially take them out. You have a few others. So there's a lot of optionality that they have when they bifurcate the coal for them to potentially sell that off.
So is that a defense? You'd say, would that be like a defensive move from Teck, is to say, hey, if we hive out our base metals division and isolate it from the coal or the met coal and all that, then you've created, you actually appeal to a lot more base metals companies, or a lot more takeout candidates versus if everything is in one. Would that be the idea of that?
Yeah, I mean, this has been in play pre the Glencore hostile bid, but if the vote goes through and they bifurcate, it's going to, essentially derail the Glencore hostile offer, right?
Yeah.
Because they want both. So this is really not just a vote on splitting the two companies or splitting Teck into two companies. It's a vote on whether people want the Glencore offer or not, right? And whether they're willing to entertain something. So it's a giant vote. The proxy cutoff was yesterday, so the company right now knows what's happened. We don't. We can only speculate. But it's interesting. I mean, a lot of this comes down to technicality. So when you look at Teck as a structure, they have Class A's and Class B's. Class A's are majority controlled by the Keevil family and Sumitomo. So that's a done deal, right? They obviously have voted to split the company. Class B's are institutionally held. Usually about 74% of those shares are voted every year. And at this meeting, they need 66 2/3 of people who show up to vote for to split Teck into two. So you basically need half of all of the Class B shares to vote for at this meeting to split. And the news leaked yesterday that CIC, so China Investment Corp, which owns 10% of the Class Bs as of their latest filing, hadn't voted yet. So from what it seems like, and there was a lot of leaks from people in the know, but from what it seems like is that this deal right now is in potentially limbo. CIC is going to come in and make the determining vote. There were some leaks that potentially they were favoring the Glencore deal. There was others that said they weren't. So really, really interesting to see, but it seems like it's in their hands. If they haven't voted as the cutoff, then their vote may not count. The company has a lot of like technical defensive strategies and tactics it can use to, accept the vote. If it's favorable, they can reject the vote. If it's not, and potentially they can squeak this deal through. From a Glencore perspective, there's not a lot they can do right now other than wait and see. But when you had like ISIS and Glass Lewis, who are the biggest proxy advisors in the world, and they essentially control the vote for all the passive funds that are in Teck currently, they both came out saying vote against the Teck split because Glencore seems compelling, and there's some governance and structural issues with the way that they're trying to split it up, too quickly. So it's really, really interesting. I mean, a week ago, I would have said that it was probably a done deal. The vote's going to go through. Maybe that there's a white knight coming in the form of, Friedland or someone else. Now it seems, really, really uncertain if this deal gets killed. Not a done deal for Glencore. So not necessarily saying that that's in. I mean, they've hinted that they're going to raise the price. So obviously it's something they're talking with the board with. But Canada plays a crucial role here too. And so we've talked a lot about like the national protectionism that the Canadian government has in deals like this. Like let's say Glencore and Teck agree to a merger where Teck's headquarters gets moved offshore. Canada's looking to become strategically a key global player in the green energy movement. And they've already said, like Krista Freeland said today, there's not a chance that they would see the headquarters of Teck move offshore somewhere else. So Canada would be required to sign off on any deal with Glencore and Teck. When you look at one of the biggest deals I think they killed previously, you look at 2010 when they killed the BHP potash bid, right? BHP was trying to buy Potash Corp of Saskatchewan. Canada killed that, so they had to walk away. Potash Corp eventually merged with Agrium and became Nutrien. But, Canada still holds a lot of keys. So it's by no means done. We're in the early innings of a lot of this drama, but it's been pretty interesting.
And the Investment Canada Act is supposed to be only implemented when the asset is of significant value. And, I guess it's gray area. They say significant is $1 billion, but they also kiboshed the TMAC deal when China wanted 100%. To buy it. So and I think that was around $200 million. So why would Glencore go through all of this work when they're smart guys? They probably know that Canada is not going to allow it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Canada's starting to be a little bit more vocal. There's agreements along the way where they can agree to keep, the headquarters in Canada. They can agree to a certain amount of Canadians, a certain amount of control. But the reality is if Glencore does take it, it's, a key copper and zinc asset that gets taken out of Canada's hands and put somewhere else. And so to me, it seems a little bit strange that they would think they could get this through. But
where's Glencore domiciled? Like, where's
Switzerland?
Is it?
Switzerland.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be that then.
So maybe it's just political posturing if China comes in and says, "No, we're going to vote for the takeover," knowing that the takeover is not going to happen, but it just shows them where they sit in the world arena. Right?
There's a lot of cards up in the air right now. I mean, also interesting that CIC, a Chinese company, owns the majority position of a Canadian darling as well, but. It's like I said, early innings on this one. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
And you said the CIC is a 10%er, or they own?
Yeah, so their last filing, China Investment Corp holds just over 10% of the Class B shares of Teck. Okay. So kingmaker right now over whether the bifurcation happens or not. And you think of the Tech's met with Freeport McMoran, Anglo. I said you had Friedland, a few others. I think they said at one point it was like 20 or 30 companies they've met with on some sort of M&A or partnership with the new Teck metals. So if Teck doesn't split, will they somehow try to maybe sell off a portion of their assets instead to someone else as a white knight to defend against Glencore? I'm not sure, but it's like I said, it's by no means over.
Have the Keevils spoken out about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's put out a lot of releases and promoting his book and talking about how much he is against this deal and doesn't see it as a value add for shareholders and the optionality of partnering with a major mining company with Teck Metals and riding Elk Valley is a separate company. They came out even just a few days ago saying that they think that their shares on a split basis can get up to $100 a share from where they are now, which is a substantial increase and obviously a very material premium over what Glencore is willing to bid. Glencore just hinted that they're willing to go up, and they never said their offer was definitive. So again, depends on what your view is.
All right, so I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
What's your bet? Vote goes through. Bifurcation, not through.
My gut tells me vote goes through.
And they split it?
And they split into Teck Metals and Elk Valley. And then we have, a strategic White Knight partner. One of the majors come in and do a deal with Teck
And there's
Metals.
also a few others that were interested. I know Pierre Lassonde was interested in the coal play with other players as well. So on either side, you'll have people ready to take the deals.
What do you think? You think the split goes through?
Probably.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it goes through.
I'm going to be the dark horse here. No split. No split, no fun. Glencore's taking it. Canadian government's going to give them the thumbs up. It's all good. Glencore takes this through to the end. Just because I just don't think that a big company like Glencore, like a transaction of this profile, there's what you see in the public and what you see in this proxy, this whole sort of proxy battle process, which, Josh, you know all too well. But I think there's all these forward public-facing conversations and back and forth, but there's so much back room. There's so many conversations. It's impossible to know. And when you see something like this, given the success rate, of hostile moves, and it's not to say just because there's never any successful hostiles or very few of them that that discourages people from doing them. But I think it sort of does. I think it's like, if you were to make a hostile play, I think your counsel, I think your advisors are going to say, these things tend not to work out. That this is a really ugly and really sloppy way to do it. So in order for Glencore to do this, I think they have to have more in their back pocket that we don't see.
I think so too, and obviously agree. I think working for about 250 proxy fights and hostile bids, all you see is backroom discussion. What you see publicly is never the reality. No matter what happens, one thing is certain is that Teck's in play now. And 99% of the time, whether the company likes it or not, there will be a deal here, whether it's with Glencore, whether it's with a White Knight that comes in, a portion of Teck will be sold off this year. I think that's a guarantee, or partnered with. Just comes down to, what they feel is best for shareholders.
Cool. Well, let's move on to section 2 of this tremendous podcast. Josh, we talked a little bit about in other episodes. I mean, we've had Matt here and everything else, and I think Matt's just outside. He's here today, and we'll have him come in. But I know that we've talked a little bit about doing different styles of podcasting for this show, whether it be our war room discussions with with us talking things through, or whether it be evaluating new deals. So I guess with that, we've had some users reach out to us on CEO.CA with some requests. We've also been tracking what's trending and things like that. So where can users that want us to review deals, where can they get it? Where can they get us?
CEO.CA/CrashLabs. So we've created a whole CrashLabs page for people listening to the podcast. Going forward, like you said, Denny and crew are going to start reviewing deals. If you want an objective review of your portfolio, that's not just a number between 1 and 5. You're going to keep your eyes on the CrashLabs podcast. A bunch of people have already started sending submissions. I got a bunch posted on the page and DM'd yesterday.
Yep.
Please keep sending them. Send us your tickers. Send us why you invested in them. We're going to pick the most favorable ones, the ones that we get the most. We're going to showcase them on this podcast. Denny's going to walk through.
Keep them out of the DMs. Keep them
keep them on the page, exactly.
On the page.
I did get quite a few DMs, but we want everyone to see the submissions and why you're picking them. We're going to go over, obviously, the investment overview. We're going to look at the geology. We're going to look at the cap structure and dig into the company. Give you something, value add as to, to validate why you invested or maybe why you should sell.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay. So that's any users that want us to look at things that, they don't hear covered, or they don't, they'd want maybe another perspective on, put it on CEO.CA/CrashLabs. CrashLabs and put your submission in there. Tell your friends too. If you're on the message boards and you're like, hey guys, like, let's try to make a push for, getting all of us to send a message to try to uptick this. Yeah, that works. I mean, we're fine with that, right? That's the whole point. So it's like, we'll try to look at them and we'll see what's trending. I think this week we've got a lot of what's trending, and we put together a bunch of DM ones, which happen to be coinciding with trending deals. But, throughout from week to week here, we want this to be sort of submission driven, and that's to engage you guys, the audience, with us, and hopefully we can bring things of value to you. And look, at every deal is a valuable experience to look at. Like when we go through this process, when we look at things, there should be value to you as a retail investor. You may be asking some of the same questions we are. You might not know to. And so it's just sort of watching us go through this process. We're not doing an insane deep dive on these things, but we're going to go through them and take you guys along the road with us. So with that, should we just move on to that stage? Josh, thanks for coming in and joining us up with the first part here. And let's tap Joshy out and bring in Matt. Okay, so we've got Matt that's joined us, subbing out Josh. This is going to be fun. We are looking at deals. The whole point of this is that we want to look at companies that either users have submitted or in conjunction with companies that are trending, which seems to be one and the same. So on CEO.CA. So today we've got a basket of things. We haven't really looked at these things very much. So this isn't supposed to be a big deep dive. It's just supposed to be a sort of a speed round review. What jumps into our minds? Is this something that's interesting to us? What is interesting to us? What's not interesting to us? What we would think these things maybe need if something jumps out that we're like, okay, well, it's clearly not passing this check or checking this box. Let's say it, and if it is, then let's say that and whatever. So without further ado, what is the list of companies we're looking at today as per requests?
Let's see. Let's start with 9. So this is definitely one of the busier chat rooms on CEO.CA.
Okay, well, let's pull that up. Steph, can you pull up CEO.CA 9 metals? Let's look at the chart first. This maybe helps. That's probably why people care. Okay, so it's on a bit of a tear as of recently. So let's look at like 6 months or 3 months or something. It's fine.
A little bit of a drop.
Yeah, it dropped down to like 16 cents and it's gone back up and the volumes have picked up. And okay, so something's going on here with 9 Mile Metals. So 9 Mile Metals. Thank you for the submission.
So we're just running through the deck?
Yeah. So look at this company. So I did have a chance to look at this briefly. So this is a VMS story. It's in Quebec. It's in New Brunswick. It's
in the Bathurst camp. One of
yeah.
the biggest VMS camp in North America. Historical camp, out of production. So new discovery in this district.
Yeah. Let's see who runs it. Stuff.
So maybe just quickly, if we're going through this a VMS story, so asking our resident geologists here, right? What are the pros and cons of generally when you look at VMS deposits? What are you looking for?
So this is cool. So a VMS deposit. So what is a VMS? A VMS is essentially it's like a variable massive sulfide. It's massive sulfide. Sulfide's polymetallic. So they can be challenging. They can often be awesome in terms of cool grades and things. Volumetrically, geologically, they're challenging, and there's a little bit of a scientific reason as to why that's the case. So they form. Actually, they're one of my favorite things to talk about in terms of like the formation of them.
I like the black smokers.
Black smokers,
That's
yeah.
cool.
So you have like, imagine these big rift zones or the places where the crust is pulling apart. Often this is where you can see this type of stuff. And so you have like, continental collision margins that are spreading or C4 spreading, let's say, oftentimes. And you get these cool chimneys that come up. They're like geysers basically, but they're underwater. And so as soon as those hot fluids, those hot fluids and that are carrying, sulfurous, metallic kind of caca and soup is coming out of these chimneys. And as soon as it hits that cold, deep ocean water, it condenses and crystallizes. And then you get these chimneys that grow. And then over time, these chimneys, they're puffing out smoke. That's what we call them, black smokers, because like the black smoke literally is shooting out of them. And then over time, the chimneys grow up and then they collapse. And so you get, over millions of years, if you can imagine, all these collapsed black smoker fields. They accumulate this material, which is largely sulfides, and it's rich in lead and zinc and copper and other things, and then that gets squished and turned sideways and spread out, and you end up with an area like Bathurst, which is a relic of all of this, and then you get these like kind of lenses, these big lensicular kind of globs of this stuff, and they drill them and.
As I understand VMS, always the biggest challenge is just finding enough of it.
Yep.
Right? You can find these like amazing pods, 300,000 tons.
Yep.
They're great grades, and then that's it.
Yeah, that would be your one smoker that you found. But you need, as Denny said, you need the full suite. You need the full.
You need like the pack of
them.
All right.
So actually, this is cool.
Pack of smokes.
So one of the a pack of smokes. So one of the cool things. Hud Bay does a lot of these, right? Up in like
The
Flin
Flin
area.
Flon Camp and the Snow Lake stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's very popular. And there's a junior company called Rockcliffe. And Rockcliffe does a really good job of, they have a slide in their deck. So Steph's going to pull it up here. So there's a slide in their deck. Here it is. And this basically shows you, this is an interesting slide to look at because this is like the critical amount of tons required to put, so here it is here, initial resources and reserves on making a development decision. So this gives you a bit of a tonnage sense of how big things get. Now, there's a general sort of grade and patina to these in this region, and so there's sort of a grade expectation, give or take, and certain things. But you can see there's pretty much a common denominator that for things to matter, you need to be somewhere between sort of 1 and sort of 5, I think is reasonable. So somewhere 1 and 5 million tons.
Right.
And you'll see that over time, a lot of these things have grown since being put into like a development decision being made, and these reserves and resources have grown since then. So I really like this slide.
That's a good slide. Rockcliffe's a cool company.
Yeah, it
Not
is.
that we're talking about it right now.
No,
That's like a
we
good VMS
we
story.
could talk about Rockcliffe, but I think this is a cool slide. And so let's bump over to the bathroom for now. Again, different camp, so different amount of what matters, but that's a good backdrop into looking at this. One of the big discoveries that was made in this camp, what the hell was the name of it? Trevally? It was Trevally.
The zinc stuff.
Trevally, yeah.
Yeah, the zinc mine.
Yeah, they had
Or
the big zinc thing.
Yeah, the big zinc thing, yeah.
So they were about 5 million tons, I think.
Right. That was just zinc.
It was just zinc.
was just
It was zinc forward, zinc like lead.
I remember, I
zinc.
think everyone I knew owned Trevally and lost money on Trevally and then bought it back and lost money again.
Yeah.
When then it sort of worked. Yeah.
Because they pivoted their
Yeah.
their operations to Africa, right?
Is that what they did?
I think so.
Yeah.
Zinc is tough. If you're
They
just
shut
zinc.
down this one.
Yeah.
Shut down this one. They had like 8 years out of it, and then they shut it down.
Okay.
Okay, so here you go. So you got 9 Mile Brook. That seems to be their flagship project. California Lake, Canoe Landing, and the Wedge project.
So maybe let's just freeze here on this page. So we've got nice grades, big width, 10% copper, 16 meters. I see why people are interested. That's pretty cool.
It's a big hit.
That's a big hit. That's a big hit.
It's a big hit. And then the Wedge project, I think, is another one that jumps out as interesting. Okay, grade. The zinc numbers are good. The copper numbers are
what
good.
stood out here is really the copper grade. A 10% copper VMS, it's quite exceptional, especially you have also gold values into it. As 0.84, the other drill holes, you had 1.30 gram ton in gold, so good byproducts for your VMS.
Do you know much about the zonation of VMS deposits? Like some regions having more copper
maybe
and
Steph, if
other?
you pull the slide off on VMS, if you're hotter on a VMS deposit, at the core of your VMS, you'll be more copper and gold rich, versus the outside will be more zinc lead deposit and iron or just pyrite on the outer rim. So the closer you are to the center, and the pipe is where basically the most value you get, because of copper holds more.
So does that mean they're close to the center?
They're probably closer to the center than other projects, which are just True Valley, which had more zinc deposit.
Yeah.
So the thickness of it seems very, very interesting, as we saw, 10 meters, quite good. If they can just keep finding the pipe and finding the core of the deposit, it will be, as you said earlier, more on the lens. So find the lens. It's probably structurally complex as well, so they may lose it sometime, finding them again. But otherwise, finding this type of grade is quite good.
Obviously, those grades you don't need. You probably could get away with the lower end of those millions of tons.
That's right, 10%
higher
copper if you have that throughout.
Yeah. I mean, you're good.
So I guess the quick question, if you were sitting with this company, then, if you're sitting in a meeting, you're like, okay, you're flipping your deck, and you're like, all right, just take me to this project. So can we go to that project?
Yeah.
Can we? I would be sitting there like, all right, that's cool. Let's see it.
Okay, so there it is there. 9 Mile Brook VMS lens. Several kilometers of that general macro geology, I guess. Doesn't tell us much, though, other than that's where it is on a map.
All right. It's not going to tell us much either.
Nope. There's a couple holes, I guess. Let's see. So obviously we saw the highlight. So what are the other holes? So, these are all good holes.
Those are all good holes.
Those are all like really, really good holes.
Those are all good holes.
From
Wait,
surface
are these
as well.
from surface?
From surface. 10 meters from surface of
Where's the from
about
to?
3% to 10% copper.
I don't understand.
Oh my God. It's from 0 down to 10.4,
So
from
what were these,
0
like,
down to
backpack-
15.
Backpack drills? What happens to them?
Really?
Where do they?
That's
what
a good
happens,
question
What
there.
happens after the 10
What
meters?
What happens later? And then also what, like they must, if they have this at surface, you should be able to like trench it or.
Yeah. So
is
are
that-
these phase 1 drill credit assays? So I would probably want to see if they had sections here. They have sections on the deck.
Yep.
No.
We may have to bring up a presser.
Right at the top left. There you go.
Yeah, click on that one.
Oh, that looks like a real rig.
Yep.
It's bigger than a backpack.
No, they're drilling it.
Okay, so they drilled 1,300 meters of 5,000.
Fully funded program.
730 meters are still at the lab.
Also very curious. Sorry, is that what's the total raise there? It's a little blurry. Is that one?
Gross proceeds of 1.2, 1.3
1.27?
million.
A lot of confusing things right now. $1 million on 10 meters of 16 meters of 10% copper.
The current 5,000 meal program.
I'm super
is-
curious now.
It's very cash starved.
Yeah, cash starved, graphic starved, assays rich,
Assays rich. Yep.
assays camp rich. Good spot to be in.
Yep. Good place to be. Good area code. Great high grade. Looks like they have some other projects. Let's just get back because I don't know how much more we can really say on this deal. What's the market cap on it? 14
Market
million.
15 million.
14, 15
Looked
million.
like they had $1 million in cash.
Yep.
All right.
So that's interesting. So this is cool because they do clearly have more news to come out, and it's more than likely that the news is going to be positive, let's say, right? If I was to venture a guess, I would say the residual holes, again, it's a guess.
I have no idea.
Okay, I'm going to guess that they probably have more good holes to come out on some of those in that zone.
Well, it sounds like they just started drilling again,
Yeah.
right?
So there's going to be, at least some of them are going to be good. Like
you-
if you drill 4 holes and all of them are crazy, then you're probably going to get more.
In a VMS system,
Okay,
are you doing some VTEM work to make sure that you can see if there's probably a big conductor if you have copper?
You
grades like
should
that,
be.
right?
You should be. Like
So-
geophysics is really good for
Yeah,
VMS stuff.
no conductor images on that slide deck too. But I know, was this the one that's doing a lot of work with the geophysics companies
Windfall.
and stuff?
Yeah.
So they're doing the windfall work.
Yeah,
So
EarthX and
EarthX
other
and
companies.
maybe
as
we
well.
can quickly go back to the deck. I'd be curious to see if, as we kind of go down, we can see if they have anything in there. No.
Nothing.
All right.
Go back up, actually. Here. Well, wait. Down one. There. So windfall. Yeah, no, it just talks about
All right.
windfall and what they're doing.
So in this case, probably, it's really cool assays. I'd be looking at this. I'd say, all right, guys, can I see what work you're doing with windfall? I'd want to see some EM. I want to see, like, if you have these
Definitely.
nice conductors lining up, that would be pretty sweet because you can see.
And as you
But
mentioned, a
doesn't-
section as well. A cross section.
Cross section would be good where those holes
are.
are, and definitely the number one question is, but I guess that goes to 62 meters. Yeah,
We don't even know where the positioning of these holes is.
But
either.
with an EM, wouldn't everything just light up if it's VMS?
Well, could no. Well, no. So like, well, yeah.
Your
I mean,
massive
hypothetically.
sulfide, your sulfide would light up, but
Yeah.
what is not massive sulfide would be less.
Yeah,
Wouldn't show them. So you'll be able to target your VMS, especially there. It's quite shallow. It's not a 600-meter depth VMS like you have in the Layler camp. So much easier to see.
I would say VLF is probably a good tool to use if it's coming to surface like that. And I'd say
that's like the top
that-
200 meters kind of thing.
Yeah,
nice,
like
lot cheaper.
Old school,
Yeah.
like airborne VLF. The gold spot, I would can Windfall and go and hire gold spot probably if I was these guys. Just saying.
You know what's funny? We spoke with Patrick. The name, I recognize the name. We spoke to them when they were still a private company, and it looks like
Really?
they went public. But we were looking to do a deal with them, and looks like they went with Windfall.
Oh, you mean with gold spot?
Yeah, when we had Gold Spot, we were talking to them when they were still a private deal, and it looks like they did find a public vehicle.
The one that got away.
Well, that's
it's
cool. That's one to
15
watch.
million.
That's one
15
to
million
watch.
right now, and it feels like it's just a drill play right now. Those are always fun. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
The
good
challenge
holes.
is though they obviously need money. Are they going to catch lightning on the resulting holes? Like if they announce, let's say they announce the next week another 1,000 meters of results, and they're all good. Like everyone knows they have to go back to the well for Bordeaux,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
are those holes going to move their stock meaningfully as they're clearly?
I think that's one thing that's hard about venture. You know, I go through this every time I raise money, but
Yeah.
But the issue, of course, is like if you hit holes like that. I mean, if you hit 16 meters of 10% copper, right?
Mm-hmm.
What better hole are you going to hit than 16 meters of 10% copper, a gram gold, 100 grams silver? Like that, pretty hard to top that,
as
right?
good as it gets.
It's
Yeah.
pretty. You know, if you do any better than that, then that's amazing. But you're probably not doing too much better than that. So the question I always have with people is like, all right, so if that's what you're doing, if that's your hole, and then you don't have a big raise to follow, then you get hit with then what happens, right? Because like, well, are you going to do better than that, or is it just going to be a market letdown and then you get stuck with kind of $1 million in the bank? And so it gets to be a challenge when you're dealing with stories like this. And I know as someone who's run stories like this, where you get caught, you're like, man, I have these huge holes. I didn't quite catch that wave. You know, market drop there at the end of the year when they put those out. So then you get stuck, right? You get stuck in this, like everyone either yells at you because you don't have enough money, or they yell at you because they're like, well, they need to raise money. But in reality, that does end up being the case, right? So that cash position is a big thing, right? And so
Do they have the share structure on the
it's
deck?
about say 57 million out, I think 75 million fully.
How is that distributed?
Insider
Yeah,
and
cool,
key
yeah.
stakeholder ownership.
42?
42%.
So it can run. It's pretty tight.
Let's
If,
take
like,
it at
if
face value.
If they pull out a good hole, it can run.
For sure, but that's my only thing is that the worry I would have nothing to do with the story,
Yeah.
despite the sections and the geophysics, right? The only issue I have in like jumping in is the exact same thing you said, which is even if they hit a huge hole, they've already hit that huge hole.
Yeah.
So how much like what they're going to do it again? So they're going to hit the same hole and they still need money, right? So
Yeah.
you're like, well, now what happens? So that's just the challenge when you're running a junior company. You're like, well, if you're running it on a budget, you kind of get stuck in this like this washing machine, kind of turning over and over again.
treadmill.
Yeah.
Yep. Hamster wheel.
But cool, really cool results. I'll have that on my watch screen.
I think
That's really
yeah.
interesting.
That's a funner company though. Like when you're just waiting on a hole, and if you put out a banger, it's going to move potentially. And
They did put out bangers.
I
a
don't
bigger
still
banger,
15
a
million.
bigger banger.
How much bigger a banger are you going to bang?
Yeah, it's as big a bang as you can make. I mean, honestly, I think that they could put out every single residual hole that they have, and that could matter. That could double the share price, let's say, maybe. But I doubt it because everyone knows they have to go back to the well for cash.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately.
if you don't know that, then you should look at their balance sheet and and be like, okay, well, they have to go back to the well for cash. This isn't a knock on the story. It's not a knock on management. It's not a knock on anything. It's just the facts. And so these are things that we should be paying attention to.
Yeah.
if we're
Unfortunately, you get stuck. I mean, that was a better hole than we came out with Sterling, for example.
Yep.
But Sterling, we doubled twice in December when we put out results. And we went up from 20 cents to 40 cents twice. Sold off trade 11 million shares in a month. I mean, we just raised money at 15 for that same reason. Because everyone's like, well, they have to raise money, especially because I got another asset. But like, they're like, we have to raise money. And so you get stuck kind of in that position. And it's sort of just the reality of things. So if you're kind of buying this as a trade, if you're in a long-term thing and you believe it, that's one thing. But if you're in it as a trade and you have the liquidity and the position that isn't huge enough that you can kind of go in and out of it, then it's just like, okay, well, if they hit a banger, then probably get out.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because I did look at this deck a little bit. We went through a couple of things, just a couple of like wrap-up points. So I went through the other assets. The Canoe Lake thing looks boring. The other one, California, these kind of suck. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't get crazy about these results. The widths are okay, but then the values are not that great. The zinc values are good. I mean, they're okay. That's comparatively speaking.
Again, it's kind of hard to judge though, right? Because you don't
Totally.
Again, because you're just looking at assays on a page and some sort of like
Oh yeah, I have no idea what
topography
how they're
here, so, like-
oriented or whatever they're after. Yeah,
one to maybe follow up on because the assays are great, but not a lot here in the deck to go on.
yeah, that's a fair
that
point.
fair?
No, that's a fair point.
It could be awesome. It could
could
be
be.
it could be awesome, and it could just be nothing. So,
I guess I didn't get excited about this. This one's interesting. It looks like they're drilling it. I don't know what's going on.
again, size, 500,000 tons of that, not going to really do much. You know, a little bit more size on that.
Historical producer.
Yeah, a Wedge deposit was mined by Kaminko and produced 1.5 million tons at nearly 3% copper. I mean, that's serious, right? Again, copper forward.
Yeah. Kaminko usually didn't leave too much there, though. They knew what they were doing. So who knows? So maybe they did, and it was just, it didn't work at the time. But
there's a resource of about 500,000 tons. I mean, I don't know. Depends what they can find in the vicinity. You're right, though. If you're going to admire a project and shut it down.
But again, no idea, no geophysics,
No clue.
no sections.
Yeah.
No idea.
No science.
So I would say that the hard part about this deck and hard part about observing the story is simply just the lack of information.
Can you go on the
I
website?
agree with
Just
that.
go to the
I agree
project
with
page
that.
on the website. Maybe they have a little bit more information.
Yeah,
on the
before we
project
pass
page.
absolute judgment on these guys.
I'm unknown. So if I'm
I'm
putting my
unknown.
vote on unknown.
Watch this.
Let's see.
Same thing.
There you go.
Oh.
Okay.
There we have the mag the mag.
Mag. Yeah, which
Right.
is not that helpful, to be honest.
The VTEM, like you said, would be much more useful. However, the cost is double or triple.
Yeah, EM would be better. What's this thing? Okay, there is EM data. Conductors. Everything's conductive. Yeah, like again, and like look at the line effects that they have in there. Like that's you gotta get somebody else. You gotta get somebody else cranking out your goodies. Call Goldspot. They'll fix that for you. See if you can tease out some things that look and feel like they matter. Okay. Well, looks like they do have data, but I agree with Matt. I'd still like to see that.
Just want to see how it fits
Illuminated.
together, right?
Yeah,
Like you
for
want to
sure.
see like an inversion that goes along with a drill hole and points towards something bigger in the lens, especially because, like you said, it's on a pipe. It's sort of like
Exactly.
chimney. So
It would be the chimney, so
So let's see it. And
no matter the angle of how it's squished, you should
Yeah.
be able to see it.
but cool, but really interesting. Big hits.
Yeah.
Fun one to follow.
I can see why so many people are following the story, though.
Big grades.
Yeah.
Follow the grade, right?
Yeah.
All right.
And there's drilling coming out. Okay, next. What was the next one? Orford mining.
mining.
How do
Yeah.
is it Orford or Orford?
I would say Orford.
I would say Orford.
Is this the Raglan West one? Is that what
This
this, is?
one,
Is
yeah,
this
they
the
have
Raglan?
also
Might be, yeah.
two, 3 projects in Raglan and one in the ABTB.
This is the Alamos guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alamos took a piece of
This
it.
is an interesting
Dude,
story.
that Kivelik thing?
This
The
is so many different
Kikovic?
projects.
Yeah, there's so many different
The
things.
surface samples of the one gold thing they have are
It's crazy.
bonkers.
Yeah.
The drill holes not so much, but the surface samples are bananas.
Oh, on the Kikovic?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's nuts.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I looked at this too. So so let's start here. What's the market cap of this thing? So just so we understand what's what in the world.
In
here.
context.
Yeah.
Orford
Yeah.
Mining is a 34 million market cap with 170 million shares out, 165.
Started running in
Trades a
February.
lot.
January,
January, February started running.
like a lot of volume.
So they have 4 projects. Kikavik, West Ragland, Joutel project as well in the ABTB, and a lithium project near Raglan.
I saw recently their most recent news. So Steph, maybe the first thing I would probably do is I'd go like check 1 year bulletins, say like what are they talking about as a company with multiple projects.
Yeah.
It's the deck is great.
But we need to know what we care about.
What are they actually talking about right now? What are they doing? I know their most recent news release was about lithium pegmatites.
Yeah.
I know they had drill holes that came out for the stuff in West Raglan. I know there's nickel in West Raglan that Wyloo is earning into.
Wyloo earning, I think, 25 million for 51%.
Just for people that don't know Wyloo is the one that bought Noron's deposit in the Ring of Fire, the nickel deposit, 20 million tons.
Okay, so the Jutel Eagle looks like it's getting some love.
So what would you have? You would have Jutel Eagle that can provide press release throughout the year, and then something up north in near Raglan, mostly exploring during the summer.
So they're talking about the Eagle one. I'm not pronouncing it like you guys. and then what else are they talking about? They're talking about
Jutel Eagle. They talk about that. They're talking about this lithium thing. I actually think the move here is the lithium thing.
okay.
Because I know that
That sounds
area
like
is
the
getting a
lithium
lot of competition and love. That's a spot. We saw James Bay light up, and I think that's a spot that
All right.
is pretty.
All right. So with that in context, let's
Interesting.
jump back to the deck.
Like again, I don't
Vin,
know.
go for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So with the deck here, we've got the gold asset Kikavik in Raglan, near Raglan, West Raglan, the lithium project that we just talked. So that's again up north, close to the same area there. We probably won't see any exploration work before summer starts. Again, it's quite expensive to go out there, and
Oh yeah,
conditions
this
are
is
not
the
the
summertime.
best.
This is summertime.
Summertime, so we should expect results when late this year for the lithium projects. Maybe some news about what they saw.
Now they didn't have. Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. We just looked at their balance sheet. They didn't have a ton of cash. There was like $2 or $3 million of cash.
That was from the last financials.
So maybe let's jump down in the deck
Okay.
here. I'm sure they go through that. It's a lot of text in the deck.
Oof,
know this.
very texty.
Okay, let's
Jutel Eagle.
keep skipping.
Jeez.
All right, there you go. All right, so $3 million as of September 30th. Didn't look like there was a raise between then and now.
Don't think so.
So not a ton of money to operate up there.
No.
Pretty far away. 4 projects. At least Wyloo's doing one, but
Alamos is a big shareholder, 25%.
I'm betting Alamos though is not there for lithium pegmatites. Just rolling the dice on that one.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
would be a
definitely.
safe assumption.
But so I'm wondering what the case is there because the drill results didn't really match up with those crazy surface samples that they had. So we can go through that a little bit, but just as a
Also, Mark West and
Also, can we go back
Maple
there?
Leaf would not be what I would consider
Sorry,
institutional ownership
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
or SEDEX for that
From the
matter.
text and
yeah.
yeah.
Flow through.
The Geo is also their IR guy, like just
That's
from all
cool.
of the technical.
Dave Christie, Cindy. Okay.
So real management team.
Yep.
Their board is definitely for real. Very seems very gold focused. Again.
Oh, John McCluskey's on the board too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So definitely cool
That's all
team.
real people.
Like cool team, real people. They definitely
Yep.
know what they're doing. So that's always good. All right. So first thing is the gold project, right?
Well, here, I think on this map, we have the 2 projects. So West Raglan, which Willow is earning in, and the Kikavik project just north of it. So 2 different rock type. Kikavik, we talk a bit about VMS and Layler. The Kikavik is basically the same age rock that you have in the Layler belt. It's Paleoproterozoic, about 1.8 billion years old. Same rock that goes from Layler up north and then goes down.
Oh.
So similar type of deposit you can find there.
Interesting.
Okay.
Maybe VMS, gold deposit as well.
See, this is good. I like this kind of a slide. It's like, let's set the stage. What are we looking for here?
Yeah, and the area code with Raglan being there and stuff. I mean, it's so like guys, this is very remote. This is very remote stuff. But I mean, it's not the worst.
It's pretty north.
It's like okay.
It's pretty north, but but again, if you
It's a big
I
land
think
package, too.
if you flip the slide here, yeah. So if you flip the slide here, this is where I like that they went from. I did a quick look at this
This
one
is
actually
crazy.
before you showed me what we were going to talk about.
Yeah.
And so it was fun when we were scanning through the deck. It's like, all right, here's something really north. We're near a big mine. So at least if you're near a big mine, even though it's 150 kilometers, at least you know that you're like, I have rocks that can make some sort of big system.
Totally.
Right? Like I'm in a good place in the
Yeah,
world
yeah.
where like big things happen.
Yeah.
And then you go here and like, what's the scale? 10. So it's like 50 kilometers or whatever this is.
That's
60
what jumped out at
kilometers.
me was the scale bar. As
This
soon
is
as I look,
so
not
big.
like notwithstanding the numbers, I
And
was
it's just
like,
like
look at the scale bar
hundreds
on
of
this
grams
one.
of gold across like 60 kilometers. So I understand why Alamos is there. It's huge.
Oh, it's not. It's big. This thing, whatever this is, it's big and interesting.
So I had a shareholder, actually, the recent shareholder into the deal that I just raised for. They came to me and they go, the great thing that you have in your company is a big system. He's like, the shitty thing you have in your company is a big system.
Yeah.
And it's like, so where do you start and how do you go through it, right? And I think that that's probably, if we go to the next slide here, what ends up happening is just it's early and take some time, take some money, right, to figure out where this thing's coming from.
That's right. Well, you look at it, you have got gold everywhere. So where do you put your focus in? So they did the first grab sample, probably first season, and then here on that slide we have the trenches and some of the drill holes. So you can see where, well, mineralization is still there. You got some width, but the grade dropped quite drastically compared to the grab samples, which is expected.
Now, is this drilling or was this channels?
It's both.
Oh, it's both. Okay.
Yeah, so they got 24 drill holes. Take a look at the left, 24 drill holes. And then it looks like this was what struck me. I have a
did it all
bias on this
go?
stuff, but no historic work, right? So
Yeah.
you're doing this kind of like fence across here and just, hoping that it kind of goes through. I'd wonder what the model would be to kind of follow up on it, right?
Okay, so this is interesting too. And this is why I've always put a lot of weight on cash for district scale plays, is because this can happen. And what just happened here is 2,720 meters.
Across 60 kilometers.
Across 60 kilometers. And we're squinting a little bit looking at these numbers and going, yeah, like there's gold everywhere, but it's not like what those grabs were.
From that program, what you'd want to see is from your first program, you want to at least like take the 60 kilometers and narrow it down and be like, all right, now I'm in 10.
The 2022 drill program included 14 drill holes and 2,720 meters for a total of 10,948 meters
in the history now.
70
In history, you
holes.
have 11,000.
Okay, so now we've had
holes.
11,000 meters and 70 drill holes, and we haven't really zoned it on. And that's what we're saying here, which is why maybe that they're now focusing on the lithium pegmatites.
That makes a lot of sense.
That might be why.
The Mirage. This is a Mirage gold project. No, I still wouldn't pass judgment for 10,000 meters. I'd say it's there. You just got to
It's
figure
gold
it out.
somewhere.
Yeah, there's gold for sure.
All
There's
right.
a deposit in there somewhere.
All right.
All
Flip.
right, next.
Till samples.
Yeah. let the
So
drilling
you,
side.
Alright.
you see this, they put effort into it. We have the till sampling, we have the grab sampling, some drill hole as well.
Well, this is
So,
all done the right way.
yeah, it's on
Yeah.
the wet rate. They understand where to go next.
That's a good point.
Do they? Do they have a target coming up?
Near you like that.
Okay, now we're in the Abitibi.
Second project in the ABTB.
All right. So I didn't see. So I'd be curious if I was following up and wanting to know, because I guess the whole point is like, what is this? Is it buy that sort of thing? I'd want to know, like, well, are they drilling it? I don't know, with $3 million, I don't know if they're going up there to drill it, but are they drilling it? And if they are drilling it, have they come out with some sort of like targeting system so that they can say, look, we're going to go drill 2,500 meters this year in a more narrowed down zone?
They're $1,000 a meter at least up there. All in.
For sure.
All in $1,000 a meter at least. More. Stefan says more.
All right.
All in for sure.
Yeah, all in for sure.
Especially if you got like a rock star or squad like these guys. I'm sure they're not paying in food stamps.
All right.
So it looks like Alamos came in.
We've upped our game now. I've been gone for a couple weeks. We got
Yeah, there's
cricket
little
sounds
crickets.
now.
They
Amazing.
came in a couple of times. It looks like Alamos, but like the raises have never been more than $3 million at a time.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So
All
spoon
right.
feeding at capital.
Yeah.
All right, but it's ripped. It's ripped on in the last couple of months, right? Is that
On
what it
something.
is? January. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what?
I think it's a lithium thing.
It's lithium. It ripped on lithium.
It's
well,
going on
look at the
lithium.
land package they have.
Can we, Steph? Can we look at when did it move? When is that?
27th January.
Can we go check out
is
the
when it
news?
gets exciting.
Can we go check out the news around then?
In January.
Yeah,
See.
you got to look at the 27th news.
You'll see that news.
So they did have a halt in there.
Halt was
14.6 meters of 4.1 at Jotel.
Have we done that project? That's not the project that we're talking about. right?
January.
No, that was the second gold project in the
Abitibi.
Yeah.
27th.
And then Wailu earned in 51%.
Started ripping in early February, end of January. So lithium.
Significant lithium around its extensive land package in Nunavik region of northern Quebec. I'm telling you, this area is like it's like the
Wasn't
new
Nemaska
James
up
Bay.
there?
Yeah, man. There's
Nemaska's
like
up
a
there,
pissing
right?
match of people
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah. So if you rip on lithium, you have to raise money for lithium, or you stick to the foundation of what got your company there. Raise money as it
Depends.
rips because
Depends
of lithium,
who's
and then
giving
put it
you
into
money.
gold. Yeah, I guess so,
Lithium's catching a pop right now. I mean, it's clear.
Well,
like,
interesting
there's a
slide
market for
here.
this.
So you see there are two main projects on here, and then they added more land to more land package to what they already had. So already had about 500 square kilometers of land from their other projects, plus an extra couple hundred square kilometers there.
All right.
Quite a big land package for lithium. Again, exploration is expensive, but first season you don't need to go drill it. Just boots on the ground. See if your pegmatite is there. Couple sample. Get some spodumene in.
Okay, so 155 ppm, 225 ppm, cesium, scandium. No, I'm just joking. That's my favorite though. I had to say scandium because that's literally the favorite thing that Rick Rule's ever said about anything weird. It's like all those scandiums. Okay.
We can totally recover it all.
Hey, can you go into the chat room really quickly? I just want to see what the chatter is about. More for.
It's a good hunt.
Are they all lithium?
Call CJ. This is what you call a little bit of a dumpster fire. This is momentum. This is like a momentum dumpster fire.
Visible pegmatites. Oh, we're gonna not even get in. We don't even have the beginning of visible pegmatites yet until our next company.
Simon Hands.
I think
Okay.
they got a lot of cool stuff.
Let's
got a little
go.
bit of-
Oh yeah, see, look at Let's Go rocket ship, pegmatite. Like they're all about the lithium and the pegmatite and the land package, and that's what's going on here. This is all about it.
All right.
Started
Good
as
for
a
these
gold
guys.
story. Got
Ale-
finance as a gold
They
story.
still,
Alamos
have,
is
they
in.
still have the nickel thing with Wailu. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yep.
As long as they're being active with it, that's pretty cool.
What's market cap again?
35.
35.
35
3 million in
mils.
cash.
They're definitely going to raise money.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
They're definitely going to raise money. You can't do any serious work on any of that, even this lithium thing, without like $10 million.
All
So stay tuned for that. Okay,
This is on the radar.
on the radar screen. I don't know. That's really
like,
disappointing
I like
with the gold. I was
like the
crazy
gold
with all those
asset.
grabs.
Yeah.
Kill
I like
like
the
they-
gold asset.
Yeah.
I'd like the gold asset if they were doing just the gold asset.
They wouldn't be
Yeah.
this
okay.
if they did. They wouldn't be running if they were just doing the
That,
gold.
that
though.
and that is totally fair.
Yeah.
That's actually like the most disappointing thing of the whole story is like that it takes like this pie in the sky lithium acreage in the middle of
Well, maybe we can
nowhere
take-
Quebec.
Yeah, it's a weird market right now. We can take a pause of just between the micro companies here, and we can just go. The market itself right now is super strange because you have like this venture, like you have the S&P rebounding.
Yep.
Gold is up. You have gold, oil, the S&P, and the TSX. All of these things are up. You know what's not up? Steph, bring it up. The TSXV. Right? The TSXV is terrible right now. Yeah. It is just no one can seem to catch a bid unless, of course, you have a lithium company, which is ironic, really, because lithium's down about 40% from its high in terms of carbonate pricing. But it's interesting just to see like these companies you have to pivot and you have to push away because obviously you got to keep your people employed, you got to push forward. But
Yeah. And I don't want to bring up Newfound. It's a sore point for Denny today. They put out, did you see the holes that
Yeah,
they
big
put out
holes.
today? And they're down on the news. And gold's not even down too much. So no one likes gold right now.
It's not even that big of a sore point. It's just annoying. It's annoying that like you put out crazy and you keep putting out crazy and like sometimes
You guys should go
numbers
into
are-
lithium.
$1.2 billion
Yeah, I
company.
know, at
It's
some
a little bit
point,
different on a
yeah.
value scale here that we're talking about. But to the point, I think
Sales
that
are
there is something to say. But I got a lot of frustrated shareholders myself. And you talk about copper, you talk about silver, whatever you're talking about, and it's interesting because I just did a raise where you have this 80% institutional participation, and every fund is like dying. You see West Red Lake, right? We can go into that at some point, but like we'll do that at a different time. But massively, like 5 times oversubscribed book for the Madsen mine, right?
Yep.
So actually the institutional ownership of this stuff, and I know because I just did this, is there. They care so much, right? I have meetings everywhere for this stuff. Like people really care as institutional go. But when you start talking about, volume and retail buying and stuff like that, no one just does.
It's a
No
vacuum.
no one's in it. And that's why the venture is just getting killed, because institutions these days, they don't have the Sheldons of the world anymore. And even the Neds and the Erics, right, who are pushing who are buying stocks in the market, right? You just don't really have that like we did 15 years ago. And so right now, even with gold up and the S&P and like pick whatever you want, it's all up. In this kind of still shaky time that we're in right now, the venture is just terrible.
How's crypto doing right now?
Crypto's fine. Bitcoin is like 28 grand. It's down a little bit over the last couple of weeks. It had a huge run. But relative to the venture, it looks great.
Looks great.
Looks
yeah.
great. So
Well,
it's just
that's maybe like
it's just a weird thing. You don't have this bid that's coming from shareholders, and you're on this. It's amazing, this Orford page, right? Because you can see, you're like, well, these guys have a gold project, super cool. Alamos, big shareholder.
serious
Gold-
management team.
Gold
Serious
people on the board.
Yeah.
Wyloo, right? Wyloo, biggest nickel purchaser in Canada right now that came in for Noront, right?
Yep.
Earning in. What are we talking about? Pegmatite showings in northern Quebec.
Yeah.
No knock on that.
But that's clearly what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's what's happening right now, right? So, and then, as a CEO, you got to say, okay, well, I need my stock to go up and I need to be able to raise money. Otherwise, no one gets to do anything. So, it's an interesting space. I wonder if there will be certainly no knock on the lithium. I'm a believer in lithium, and I think that it makes sense. It's just, it's interesting that no other commodity.
So we know that on the lithium lift, they have to take advantage of that, and they're going to put out I bet
sure.
they'll be announcing a financing in the next week or two, right?
Well, it would be crazy
At this
not to.
price level, they have to stick a
have
pin
to.
in it with a big.
But the only
PP.
thing is so then the question is, then do you have the financiers? So even when we could actually use this opportunity to skip to Brunswick, because I was going through Brunswick and you see like the deals that they're doing.
Yeah.
Brunswick is a $200 million company and is raising $7 million.
But
So
also,
you don't. So maybe you don't. So you don't necessarily have that like big check. You don't have the I'm buying a Madsen mine for and 5 times oversubscribed to play in these deals, or do you? That's my big question.
Okay. Well, there you go.
okay.
So that's that deal. Is there anything else? What was the Brunswick was the other
Brunswick.
one that was
Brunswick is a great one to tie into right now because we're talking about lithium. Okay, Brunswick. Can we just bring up a large just quickly of the chart here
yeah. So what's
of
going
Brunswick?
yeah.
on here? Is that Orford?
There you go.
It's very similar as Orford.
Same
almost.
timing.
Yeah.
Same timing.
February.
Same timing. Lithium explosion.
Great group.
That's what
Group
it is.
behind Cisco Group, you have Bob Wares, about 20% of the company. Lots of other Cisco guys.
Killian
into it.
Charles.
Killian Charles into
Right.
it as well. So you have the brain, you have the guys behind the discovery of Canadian Malartic and others. So they thought about it. They thought about their IDs. Well, one thing that we can talk about the deck first is things not line up on the first page. For a $200 million company, I think
The
that
formatting.
can be fixed. Formatting can be helped. But otherwise,
This is interesting because just as a quick aside to these guys, because this is uncharacteristic of this group to be modeling around in the lithium space. Killian Charles is involved in this, but he used to be at Industrial Alliance. And Killian used to cover this space. I'm almost positive. So he would know. He was an analyst at Industrial. That's where I first met him anyways. And and he would know a lot of these things, these like assets and these different pockets and corners and things.
But, like, how much do they own a Cisco Group? It's like right in the middle of that.
I like that it's in
landscape.
the middle line.
Yeah.
And then there's retail and no other numbers on anything else. It's just a pie.
one of the
Oh yeah, it's just the
One of the
line. It's
slides
just a
is
little
probably
skinny
Bob
little
Just like-
line.
it's kind of just like a peace sign, sort of, with the
well,
retail.
good thing
in
with them
there.
is the cash, 16 million in cash.
Yeah.
It's a lot of cash.
Lots of
Yeah,
cash
it's good.
to go explore the projects.
Yeah.
They stake premium lands where lithium showing where, and they're really the theory behind it is if we have lots of S-type pegmatite, which is the one you're looking for, there's some that will grade. They have about 250 pegmatites. So if enough grades, then they got mines. That's really the exploration upside that they are aiming for here.
Okay.
Okay.
Drill result that they just got, was looking at that earlier, right next to Galaxy Lithium.
Wait, you said it's S-type pegmatites. What's
Yeah. What does that mean?
S-type pegmatite is Well, when your intrusion comes in, your pegmatite intrusion comes in, the S type is from a sedimentary source of pegmatite, where your lithium is probably brought in from the sediments that was melted and then come in as a dike from the pegmatites.
So the dike came up and cooked up the seds. Like
Cooked
the
up the
seds
seds,
is
or
the
the-
source material for
Or
the dike.
when the seds got subducted into the crust, got
Yep.
melted, and this juice, when it went through the crust, it
Sed
formed
juice.
it formed the pegmatites.
Got it.
So does that have any indication of like this? Is there like an average size? When, like 250 pegmatites to me as a non-geologist just means it just reminds me of a surface sample.
Well,
so what? How take my mind away from that?
The thing is, in James Bay, there's lots of pegmatites, and
Lots
Earl-
of pegmatites across Canada.
across Canada, exactly.
This
And
is a good graphic
was
for
looking
pegmatites.
at them before. So people were just walking across it because it didn't hold any real value until the the lithium price started rocketing.
But like break it down for me like I'm 5. So a pegmatite, like is it like a
Oh.
vein? Like what?
So
am
what
I-
you
am I-
have-
I don't understand this.
Okay, so you have, imagine like an unpopped zit
Yeah.
of magmatic goodies,
Yeah.
right?
a good
So
one.
imagine like you have this, let's like think of like a
Little jelly
volcano,
donut. Yeah, I got it.
like in a way. So you got a volcano coming up, all this magmatic crap. And then basically, if you could imagine, the pegmatites would form from the juices that come out of that unpopped like zit that's underground, like all like that magma chamber, like let's say that and all of the juices get exsolved from that magma chamber sort of thing. And those would be like the most closest to surface sort of distal
Okay.
manifestations of that.
and
Is
the
that a
s-
fair
and-
description?
Yeah, it
of-
would be fair, and the size really varies. It could be something.
So I could have a
couple meters.
pegmatite and it could be like 100 tons, or
It's
I could
a
have, like not
dike.
100, but like
It's a dike, right? So if you can imagine like fingers and tentacles
Yeah.
coming off of things, those are dikes, we call them. And so these are like, it's a dike, but the composition of that dike is not like granite. It's not like granitoid rock. It's not like a granite dike. It's like once it gets up, it's like a little juicier, a little crappier. It's like full of like feldspar and biotite and all these weird things come in, like spodumene and all this other stuff.
Right.
But what he's saying is, what makes these special is that you're not, those dikes are coming from basically seds, like melted down sediments. That's what's
Right.
providing the slurry or
Okay.
the goodies to make this.
But then sorry, Siege, hold on, just so I can understand this. Okay, so but I'm going back to the Brunswick PowerPoint right now,
yeah.
and the big thing of the Brunswick PowerPoint is you go through this kind of like this part, and then you go to the next page, and you get 250 untested pegmatites measuring over 500 meters in strike length. So I don't really understand what that means. Is that like every one of them is 500 meters in strike in a certain
From what I
width?
got, this is what it is. Every one of those 250 pegmatites they have 500 meters.
Is like that finger that is
Exactly.
500 meters in strike, and then some sort of width, and then that's where you're
Some
going
sort of width. It could be a meter. It could be 10. Could be
10,
5.
could be 25,
50.
or 30, like they drilled in
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
So now I understand the scale of it a bit better, because like that's what they're saying. They're like, we have a whole bunch of pegmatites, of which we hope some of them are lithium bearing, right? And
Spodumene
they're all
rich.
big.
They're all big. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I understand now. There, that was great. Thanks,
Vinny,
guys.
did you trade the stock back in the day when you were like, oh, Cisco's in it? And
Yeah.
they were like,
early on, I think at
what-
14 cents.
What kind of what did they have
Well,
initially?
initially
were they in the
had-
Bathurst camp?
They were in the
'Cause
Bathurst camp, yeah, initially.
So
they were
did
there.
They raise,
also
did they raise all that money for their Bathurst asset, or did they stake all this lithium stuff and all?
They
of a
did
sudden?
a small raise early on for the Bathurst, another project in Quebec that was not lithium.
Yeah.
And
Nickel
then,
stuff, no?
Nickel stuff, yeah.
Okay.
And then they pivoted to lithium and did another big raise recently.
Okay, so interesting.
So initially it was really about the Bathurst camp, who's behind it. So knowing that Bob Ware's
Got
on
it.
20% or more of this company, plus the Cisco group, it's a good bet when nobody is really looking at it.
yeah,
That's why
for
it's
sure.
called Brunswick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right, Brunswick.
And then
Right.
maybe-
So everything ties in today with 9 metals.
So we started in a good place. We've
Started
had a
in
good
good-
order randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You start off with an
Or
asset that you
was
believe
it
in, and then you
random?
pivot to lithium and raise.
Okay, so basically this $180 million story, I'm going to try and ask you some more questions, but okay, so I got 250 large enough tonnage things,
Hopefully.
that some of which could maybe have a relevance, of which the drill program that they had last year, it looks like they're not following up on it, as is what I saw in the news release. They're not following up on the drill program last year, so the first testing did not yield the next Patriot Metals, but then they have 248 more to go.
Yeah.
Is that the idea?
That's the idea. But also, I think if you flip further down in the slide, Steph, there's just here. So you have Galaxy Lithium here, which is a known lithium deposit.
Yeah.
Right beside, you have Anataco West, so neurology play. In the next slide there, you have the extension of that's Galaxy. The extension goes into Anataco West.
Yeah.
And the following slide is here we drilled some of the results. So they have
Right, but this one they're not following up on this project. That's what I read. I read in a press release that they put out that they saw this, or but maybe their assays are still pending.
that was
Okay, that was
another project they had.
Okay, so
Because they
everyone's
have-
waiting for assays here.
Exactly, they're waiting for assays. They have 15 to 20% lithium,
Spodumene.
spodumene, sorry,
Visible spodumene.
visible spodumene. And
Let's
if you look at,
Spodumene was my
back it up.
favorite
We
mineral
went
in
from
university.
we went from lithium to
I used
spodumene
to-
to
I used to
visible
say all kinds
spodumene.
of
It's a
perverted
drill log, all
spodumene
right?
Shit.
Okay.
Okay.
in spodumene, you have about 8% lithium in it from chemical formula.
Okay.
So quick calculation there.
So
if
I could have 26 meters of a percent.
of a percent or up to 1.5%. So that's what you get.
Yeah, so it's like somebody spodumened all over James Bay right now. That's why you have Patriot Gold, and everybody else is everywhere. And then also a lot of spodumene is located in Brazil, in the Sigma area.
Yeah.
So there's like
Well, again, big systems, big
very
systems
spodumene
mean there's probably
systems.
more big systems, right?
spodumene is the best mineral.
Spot. all over
Anyway,
James
the but you know what's interesting though. So when you have a region where you can have these pegmatite dikes that are rich in spodumene like this, you get more of them. It's
Right.
kind of like any other thing. And so, like for instance, Sigma in Brazil,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of historic like private companies that have been producing lithium in Brazil for decades.
They have like
In
artisanal
that
mines.
whole area, in that whole area, yeah, it's like a real thing.
Yeah.
So it's
We're going to
not,
talk about that in Argentina in a couple weeks.
yeah. So like that's a cool thing to recognize here too, is that when you're in the right neighborhood, you have the right area code, and you're looking at this. You're looking for these pegmatites, and you can identify the dikes
Yeah.
themselves. And then
So I guess the question here, I get it. I got it. I think we all got it. Big plan.
Big plan.
Good
Money-
team.
money
Money
to-
in the
money
bank.
to do it.
All good things. Question is, $180 million value. So there's a question. That's I as I understand now, I don't really understand the whole
zero
time.
financing risk.
Zero financing risk, clearly.
Or you have the neighbor Patriot at 1.2 billion.
But Patriot has drilled the most
That's
absurd
right. 100 so they drilled,
lithium
what,
holes I've
100
ever seen.
130 meters, about
Like
1.5%.
3%. Yeah, they drilled 50 meters of 5% lithium.
It is exactly.
That's the most absurd hole ever.
Is that better than even Sigma's? I think Sigma had stuff like that, didn't it?
They may, I don't even know. I don't know
I think
Sigma projects as well.
I think Sigma's crazier.
So I understand though. I understand the Patriot thing, and again, they're right beside it. There's lots of companies right beside it though that
It
have
is, yeah.
pegmatite showings that are also not worth $180 million. So that would be my only question about the valuation of it. And I suppose, are the results baked in? Would be the term, right? Like, am I already guaranteeing success? And am I only upside is if they drill something like Patriot? That would be my worry.
Spells
Recovery on this type of stuff, I think it's interesting to point out. Recovery on this type of stuff is like 50%.
but it feels like expected value is baked into the market cap right now.
Yeah, like they better hit.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what I was
They
saying.
have
So
to
it's like
hit.
if I have $180 million, if I have an EV of over $160 million, right? Like 26 meters of a percent lithium.
They just announced some drill holes, so maybe we could look at the chat board of what did the people said when the 15% spodumene came out. If I remember,
I don't know. There's a lot of messages.
yeah, when was that?
Yeah, it's pretty active. That's how we landed on this thing, is it's one of these active names.
And I understand like there's darlings of the market that like they carries good name, that obviously that I understand that. I think that but again that would be my question is what assays do you need? Because I mean you can look at like Triple I, like there's a bunch of them that are out there in this camp that have drilled like 15-20 meters of a percent lithium, and so they're worth $30 million right now. So the question is like, do you have is there too much success baked in? That would be my only thought. But of course, I also thought that prior to them drilling, And I thought they kind of got ahead of themselves, and it's still up there.
It's still there.
What's that
it's
purple one?
rip
That was that
roaring,
magenta
right?
one? Sorry, stuff. Is that Patriot too?
Yeah, Patriot should be the.
No,
the
Patriot's
magenta
the yellow
one.
one, isn't it?
I don't think that's the shape. I think that's Patriot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
then,
magenta.
I mean, like Azimut is an interesting example, right? There's another gold company. Azimut got Agnico to come in at $1.70 a share, give them like $6-7 million. The stock goes down. CEO puts news out at the pace of not very much.
And they announced a
that's-
great drill hole on
They had some
Elmer
big
for
drill
gold.
holes. It's a cool project, and like there's no one cared about the stock. Then he put out that I have pegmatite showings here. The stock doubled, added like $80 million of value because his project is close to here, and everyone cared. It was bananas.
Okay, so I'm gonna screw down my trade hat. Okay,
Yeah,
so
that's-
let's throw
That's
value.
this area. It's like I don't
Well,
understand.
I think you have to. I mean that's what we're talking about, right? Like all these things are absurd. So even Patriot, we could get into Patriot, but there's some hair on that story. I mean, there's a lake on top of what they're doing.
But at least they've drilled like the best lithium holes ever.
Oh no, 100%
in North American
100%.
history,
I'm not gonna
right?
I'm not gonna try to poo on it. I'm just saying it's got hair on it too. It's also like, anyway. There's going to be some logistical challenges, I would think, to that story. But, you've got a lot of headwind with government and, battery metals and things like that. And so whatever. And you're in Quebec, which they love this type of stuff. So it's all good.
And lithium exploration doesn't cost anything with Superflow in Quebec.
Oh, yeah, with super. Exactly.
Doesn't
No,
cost
no,
anything.
for sure. There's a lot of positives. Okay, so here's my point. So if I want to just say $180 million, they've got the right area code. They're in the next kind of area like this one, which is like a big blowout area, right? They've got 200 untested pegmatites. They have 16 million in cash.
155 million market cap. Sorry.
155 million market cap. Let's forget about that for a second. 16 million in cash.
Yeah.
You can test a lot of those 200 pegmatites.
Sure.
And if you do, and you come up with a lot of numbers, like we still don't know what the spodumene results are there. So let's assume that's baked into what we're seeing here. Let's say it's a couple percent.
Yeah.
Then we run around and look at all these other 200 pegmatites. And for $16 million,
Right.
there's a lot of catalyst potential for a frothy and almost mindless lithium retail market.
That's okay.
Speculative market.
So here we go back into my initial. Here we full circle again into the market conditions.
Yeah.
I can look and find millions of ounces of gold for a $200 million market cap that's looking towards being a mine. What economics do I have that are associated with $200 million value for some drill holes and pegmatites? That's what-
I'm not.
So at some point, like the market has to be like, okay, well, what is that actually worth? Like just because you have lithium and there's enough of it, like what is that? I don't know, what's that worth? I mean, like I remember the due diligence I did on Canada Lithium a long time ago now, but like, when that first lithium craze happened, the Canada Lithium and Nemaska fiascos in 2011-12, right? Like that, everyone just sort of bought into them and they were worth $400 million, but no one really took some time to apply economics to them. And so I wonder if that's happening again. It's like, okay, well, if this was a gold
clearly
story,
happening again.
if this is a gold story, right? And you had this. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the Sean Ryan stuff in the Yukon when gold ripped and the Yukon ripped, right? But like everyone's like, oh yeah, it takes a long time to build a mine.
No, it's clearly this isn't. I didn't even think there's any rhyme or reason to it. I think this is just lithium is a talking point. It's a hot market. I think you just say the words pegmatite, you say the words spodumene, and if you're in
Cool
Quebec,
story, though.
specifically in James Bay,
Yeah.
if you had James Bay, spodumene, pegmatite, and like all strung together, and lithium,
You're doing okay.
you're
right
probably doing better
You're doing okay
than like most. Like you're probably at least 30 million market
now.
cap.
Even with lithium coming off 40-50% from the high.
Even with
even with
lithium, I don't even think it's like tied to that at this point. I think it's just totally. This is where all the inefficiency you're observing in the venture. I think this is where it's.
Kind of reminds me of like
This is where it lives
right
now.
Reminds me of like a new camp being discovered in gold, and like there's like a Hemlo.
Yeah.
It's like how many of them
No, it's
around there?
It's nuts. Well, look at Newfoundland. Like when
Yeah.
we started with
right,
Newfoundland,
with
like how
Newfoundland.
many companies like
around you?
flocked into
Yeah,
Newfoundland,
that's a good-
and
that's a-
like
that's a better
look at
comp,
all
actually.
the money that was going into everything that looked and smelled like gold in Newfoundland, and then like look how many of them were real, and and arguably they're all kind of real. You know what I mean? Like all of them have a shot still, and even if they didn't find something, that doesn't mean they can't. But anyways, I guess we digress. But from my perspective, it's like you're unglued from sanity. Like the market isn't sane about this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
it's
so
not.
You're sort of in it. You're like, all right, I believe in it. It's gonna be Patriot. Like there's no value. It's like to me, I'm like, I look at this, and I guess we've been doing this a long time, and you look at this, you're like, okay, cool.
If they hit
I'm super pumped for them. I hope it works. It's great. I like the idea of new deposits found in Canada. It's just like, I don't know.
If they
I don't
get
know
a
what the trade
cluster
is.
of 30 pegmatites clustered up together, and they're all like,
And they all bear 1.5% lithium, and you have 200 million tons of
they're
lithium.
going to a billion.
Well, yeah,
Right? They're going to at least a billion.
I agree.
And there's no limit on how much capital these fine folks can raise, and or how much and they're going to get a premium for who they are and their access to capital and their team in Quebec. It's a turnkey operation. So
I guess it will be interesting to see what happens with these assays.
I wouldn't personally. All the power to you guys. Love it. Congratulations. And there's definitely this is going to be one that I'm going to have a lot of fun not being a part of and watching
Yeah,
and being like, great, like.
yeah, it's cool.
It's gonna be cool and exciting to watch, but this out of all of the stories we looked at today, this one has the most catalyst potential.
Well, the funny thing is, even on a value basis, where I'm like talking about, well, this is proper, whatever the value. There is no value on this. It's like
Right.
you're
The value
in
is
or you're
completely
out. It's
arbitrary.
and totally
subjective.
It kind of reminds me of a little bit of a crypto thing where you're like, well, either this is gonna, it's like binary. It's like I don't know what the value is. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Do you want to be part of it or not? But the big difference is they have $16 million. So if I have $16 million and I have this, or I have $1 million and I have 16 meters of 10% copper, even though I personally would prefer, let's just say that in section makes sense. I probably like drilling 16 meters of 10% copper better because I like that. Not necessarily per system, but like it just in a vacuum. Like if I didn't know anything between the two, I'd say, oh man, that's amazing already. But if you told me I have $1 million of cash versus 16 million of cash,
Well, here's a.
This
I'd probably
is
buy this
16
as a trade ahead of time.
This is 16 million. This is 16 million in cash in like NOS. In like a car, like you know what I mean. Like this is like nitrous oxide. This
They're
is
in
like
the quarter mile.
Yeah. This deal, like if they literally, and plus they have pegmatites. They have pegmatites where they've identified spodumene ungrading yet, so they don't have
Who's
the
Vin
values.
Diesel?
Yeah, but like best case scenario, what is it, a 4 or 5x if they're going to catch up to Beam
Dude, who
I don't
knows?
know.
Are you in?
At this
All
point,
I know is that they have
You're in exploration
acid
for a
results
4X?
pending,
That's
and then
why
they have
I'm
another
not-
16 million bucks.
That's why I wouldn't buy it because unless
Yeah.
they drill 50 meters of 5%.
Well,
so
here's
that's
a-
5x, 50 meters of 5%.
So we covered what, 3
Yeah.
companies today?
yeah.
So out of the 3, and you had to choose one, what would you choose? Or are we going to go over one more? Do we have time?
What's our
or-
time horizon?
I'd say that,
What's
that's
the
probably
time?
that's probably it.
Yeah.
Probably good.
Yeah.
What's the time horizon that you would like have to own it for?
Well,
Are you talking as a PA trade, or are we talking as like an institutional trade? Because an institutional trade a long time. It's a totally different question.
Like PA?
PA, no,
PA,
we,
but-
we're in the trenches with the users here. So we're,
So PA trade.
we're retail right
We're retail
now.
right now.
We're retail right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a better way.
I
to
would
do it.
buy Brunswick.
Brunswick.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would buy Brunswick, and I would buy, what was the other ones we looked at?
You can't say it's just one. You can't.
Brunswick, Orford, and 9.
Oh, yeah, they Orford too. Oh, God. Orford was pretty cool.
Orford was cool. Expensive to explore.
Yeah, but binary, they have a big land in that
They
belt.
do have
They have like
9. They have a very good grade. Not much cash.
I'm in it to win it. I'm in 9. I'm 9. Like that's the most upside.
Okay,
right now.
9's real. I would say Brunswick for me. That would be my trade. I would play that trade.
You're in a money market.
Yeah, I would be like,
I'm probably buying Brunswick too because if you look at their results, they have actual results coming. No one else has actual catalysts coming.
Exactly.
So I'm buying Brunswick because
there's urgency.
So you know that people are buying it, even though the biggest chance of a sell-off is probably Brunswick too, because the other ones aren't selling off; they're not moving.
Yeah, it's also the most
I don't know.
overvalued, frothy kind of thing too.
Yeah, I don't really.
like the one you're
it's a tough
buying.
choice.
Nine is probably drifted back down to as close to thing. But the problem with 9 is that they have to raise cash. So
They have
if
they-
I'm going to buy 9, I'm going to wait till they finish.
They got
there's some
assays in the
catalysts.
docket.
They drilled about 1,300
Oh,
meters
that's
out of
true.
5,000,
That's
so
true.
they got
That's true.
a couple thousand meters left. Probably 9 for me.
Okay.
9,
Brunswick-
the value side of me would probably say 9 or Orford as well, because I can't say Brunswick. It's too high.
I'm going Brunswick. I'm going for that trade.
So
That
you have to
sweet
pick one.
lithium trade. high velocity.
You go for Orford then. That's
Well, I'm
why
gonna go for Orford just because I like the team and I like of all the presentations that we just saw, which we just went through. Of the three, the one I trusted the most and the process that they went through, even though I know the Brunswick process is really good too, but the one that I trusted the most in terms of that, and I really like the nickel component of it, so I would probably go Orford as well.
So let's give it a 3. We'll just give it an arbitrary timeline here, just for fun.
July.
Are we going to come back and visit this in July?
Yeah.
Come back and visit in July.
For real?
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right.
Right.
All right. We're going to do it.
Mark it down.
Now, look at anybody listening. Listen, we're not recommending you buy any of these stocks.
This is not
first of
investment
all.
advice.
This is not investment advice. Don't buy any of these things unless you do your own homework. And number 2, we did not just do homework there. That was not what we would consider homework. That was like a very quick review, lightning fast. That was a speed round. We knew about these deals this morning. We're recording this at 1 p.m. We maybe had less than an hour, if not 45, maybe 45 minutes to look at their decks prior to jumping on to this podcast. So, like, this is not the extent. Any of these deals, if we were considering this, you phone management, you ask them questions, you know, you look in a little bit deeper and you go through. There's probably things we've missed. But anyways, 100% things we've missed, right? Or overlooked,
Except
whatever
Brunswick.
have you.
We didn't overlook anything in Brunswick. I totally understand Brunswick. I literally 100% understand.
I think maybe that's why I like it.
I think
I would actually.
Brunswick should have just had a slide that was like 250 pegmatites that are 500 meter strike, period. Next slide, we like lithium, period. Next slide, we have $16 million, period.
And then
Slide
we
after
have-
that, we're going to drill them, period.
And
Let's see what happens.
We have like the results of 25 drill holes.
And there's
pending,
spodumene-
and there's spodumene
spodumene
in them.
Yeah,
A lot
period.
of it.
Peace.
There's somebody spodumene all over this core. Okay, got it. That's my last spodumene joke. Sorry, guys. Hit me with a horn just for punishment's sake. Spodumene joke. Yeah, that's better probably. Okay, last spodumene joke. All right, that's it. So thank you very much, everyone. Again, love to get your feedback. If you enjoyed this, go on to CEO.CA / CrashLabs and type in whatever deals you'd like us to do this with, and we'll do them. Thank you.
Thank you, Team 9.